Okay, good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? This is a special presentation coming from the African Speaks. This is definitely a special presentation coming from the African Speaks. Now, let me switch this up real quick because what I did in this particular case, I did something that I've been wanting to do. I've been doing something. I'm doing something tonight that I was called to do. So some people may be watching us on Facebook as I do the Facebook Live. Some people may be watching us on YouTube as I do the YouTube Live. And on Facebook is several pages. There's always several pages. Now, one of the things that I added to it was the fact that I had an assignment. And the assignment from the Creator and the ancestors was bring in the greater community, right? Because everybody has a voice, everybody needs to speak, there has to be a platform, there has to be a situation and a scenario where it's just not selected individuals who get to voice their concerns about who we are and what we're dealing with and what we're going through. It shouldn't be unless we've labeled individuals. These are leaders. These are the individuals that speak for us. These are the individuals that go for us. These are the individuals that represent us. It should not, unless they have been chosen. And a lot of people who have platforms are not the ones that necessarily have been chosen. And so I'm not saying I've been the one that was called to be chosen. I'm going to say that they called me to create the platform to give voices to those who need voices. That's why my show is called The African Speaks. Because there's not an individual person who is melanated that doesn't have a voice, doesn't have a perspective, that doesn't have ancestors walking behind them, that doesn't have individuals or connected to the Creator, a spiritual awareness. Some of us, yeah, some of us may not be connected, but some of us are. So I was asked to create the platform to begin the conversations to pull community together. So this is the first effort. This was a last minute effort. This was a special day. It's a last minute effort. Because as I was putting everything together, it said I could hear the ancestors say, put together the platform. Now I can show you, and I sent it out. I sent it out to everybody in my, not in my family, but in my circles. And I said, well, this is just the beginning. So I don't know how it's going to turn out and how it's not going to turn out. Right? So I'm going to bring in the platform in which I created so that you can see it. Whether or not we do that all night or not, who's to see? As it continues to grow, we'll add more people. We'll add it on. However, this is the layout. This is what I created and was told to create on behalf of the ancestors. And so I wanted to have this go out, and I wanted this to be seen. I wanted this to be experienced. And so there may be an echo. Make it an echo. You might hear echo. Because I'm still learning this process. But in this process, it was said, create an experience where your community can come and speak. Your circle can come and speak. And other individuals in this world are hearing perspectives from other individuals in this world that look like them, that may have shared thinking, shared community, experiences, concepts, views. So this was set up this way so that individuals could share their word. And so I said, let me put this together and see how it works. Because this, like this, has not been done. As you can see across on the other side, you see the Zoom. You see what is being streamed. You see the people slowly come in. Now, what we hope as we continue, because there's a couple of people that were key that I invited. Now, I'm hoping they pop in. I'm hoping they show up. I'm hoping the individuals that popped in and show up will actually make a decision to speak as we continue. But this is that special experience where the community, the creator and the ancestors said, you have an assignment to begin to create a platform for the voices to be heard. Not only to the society, the oppressive society in which we exist in, but to each other. The more we realize that we have the same views and the same experiences and the same desires, the more we'll be willing to work with each other, for each other, on behalf of each other. That's what this is about. That's what this particular one is about. So we're hoping that that's what this becomes. Hold on. Let me minimize this. Okay. So in that space, sorry, working out these technical difficulties. All right. So as we get on, this particular concept was inspired by a situation that I had in my community where there was we were putting on a presentation, and after the presentation we had a lot of people get into this inner circle, and they started talking about and started dealing with the issue that they had with police brutality, the tragedy of Tyre Nichols. And that was hard to listen to individuals in my community deal with the issue of their despair and their grief. And I sat down and I said, I got to talk about this. And at first I wasn't going to talk about it. At first I wasn't going to deal with it. But then something said, you got to talk about this. Not only that, you got to bring individuals in that might have an insight of how to approach this intellectually, how to approach this emotionally, how to approach this spiritually. Because in this space, we're always dealing with traumas. We're always dealing with traumas. And dealing with those traumas, it says, there's a book that says the body keeps score. How much does our body, how many scars our body is going to take in this place or in this space where it keeps score? What happens to our body in the process of keeping score? So this is not, understand that this is not an issue of what some psychologists call trauma porn, because we're not dealing with trauma porn. We're not going to sit down and because I have another family member who was like, I wasn't even going to watch the video. I said, well, me either. I didn't need any more trauma porn. I didn't need anything triggering trauma porn, where it triggers blind rage, hopelessness, or despair. I didn't want it. And then I sat down and said, when I was listening to individuals, I said, I need to take a look at it. When they were going through the fact that, wait a minute, the ones who I felt should be, who embody our ancestors and the creator and the awareness, the self-awareness, and the fact that there's a mission at hand for us as a people the world over, would have a particular perspective on this. And they did. And they did. Some. And so when I look at that, our body keeps score. You realize that that's the brain, that's the heart, it's our joints and our muscles, it's our immune system. Some people have lupus, and lupus eats away at your skin. So you have skin disorders. We have gut issues, digestion issues, reproductive problems. This is from your body keeping score, the trauma that we live in. And then we also have spiritual deficiencies. They say almost every illness that we have as a people is a spiritual deficiency. That's why this was needed, guys. To try to counteract that spiritual deficiency. And so if you're watching me via Facebook. We're letting you know that this is what we're looking at. This is what we're doing. We're dealing with police brutality with our faces attached to it. This is the conversation, and this is it. And so I'm not asking anybody to spectate when we're dealing with this issue of our body keeps score. That's those pre-existing conditions that we have versus what everybody else have. And that's when you talk about COVID-19 and how it affects pre-existing conditions. And this is why the numbers of black people who were dying was larger than any other group, because of us living in a constricted society the world over. And we were the hardest ones not to being able to deal with social distancing. And then after Tuskegee experiment, I don't see how we were the first ones running for the they call it the jab. And we had a whole series on that one. But we're dealing with the pre-existing conditions. And in the middle right now with this scenario, dealing with what social distancing did, that connection that we get where two or more gather in my name, there shall I be. We then realized that they separated us as connecting as a people, then they separate us, our ability to call on the presence and power of God, because you're sitting at home trying to find a connection if you didn't have personal practices that connect you to the ancestors and the creator and that mystic power that exists in all of us as a people. Yeah, your pre-existing conditions grew. I know mine's did. Anytime I have a pre-existing condition, it always affects my heart. Always. And that's what I battle with, keeping my heart clear. And so in this space, we find ourselves in a mega mix, because this is literally the first time we have seen social injustice with our faces attached to it. That's the scary part. Social injustice with our faces attached to it. Can you imagine that? That's the part that's scary. That's the part that you're wondering, hey, is this working? Is this happening? Really, I'm watching social injustice. I'm watching another individual, another spirit, another melanated king, melanated person, because they're doing it to the queens too. Life shortened by police brutality. And so in that space, I talking to quite a few people didn't understand how to take that. How do I take or accept the situation where now this police brutality is being executed by me? And that's the difference. By me. There was a conversation that we had when my community did something called the gathering. And in the gathering, there was a thought that I gave, where I said, when you said I am because we are, and we are because I am. And I said the I is plural. The I is plural. I am. I means black people. All of us. My I is plural. I am because we are. We are as a group, which is singular, is because of the greater I am. So my I is plural and my we is singular. We are singular, one people, one voice. So when this happened, I saw that happening. I saw it's happening through me. I saw our faces in the midst of another massive trauma. And I said, how are people processing this? I paused because I said, okay. And someone asked me, I got a call. Brother said, how would you take this to a sermon? How would you teach from this experience? How would you preach from this experience? This injustice, is this system, is it caused by the system, or is it caused by the another level of black on black violence? How is this caused? How did you see it? How did you get it? How did it connect to you? Trying to make sure that everybody can get and everybody can hear who's trying to come in here. What did you do when you saw your brother hurt your other brother? This is different. How did you feel when you saw your brother hurt your other brother? What was your feeling or your thought when your brother took arms against your other brother? And that's going to be a question. Did anybody have a particular feeling when they saw their brother or their brothers physically brutalize their other brothers? Because I didn't see this police. I saw my brother using the system to exercise his psychological sickness. This is what I saw. Does anybody have any other point of view or an experience when you realize your brother's doing this to your brother? I know for me, now it's open question. Again, you don't have to spectate. You can participate. You can use your voice. You can unmute yourself. And the floor will be yours. But in this space where it is your brother, after your brother, the first thing I thought that this is this is also a opportunity for a stronger sense of awareness. This is a opportunity for a stronger self of understanding your reality. This is an opportunity to develop a greater need for each other. This is also an opportunity to create a desire to truly connect to a higher power. An opportunity that we could use to lean on the directions of our ancestors. This is a great opportunity where we can find a deeper purpose. How did it affect you? How did it hit you? What did you do? What did you say? How did you feel? Did you have conversations going across? Now, I didn't, and I just, for me, when I found myself in those circles, I would just listen. I just shut down, got quiet, and just listened because I wanted to know what everybody was feeling. And then certain individuals like, hey, this is different. Because when it's not an image of us, you have a clear enemy. When it's not an image of us, you have a clear enemy. You know who you're fighting against. You know who you're fighting toward. But when it is the image of us, this is the conversation we're on a slave plantation where they used us against us. Y'all seen the movie Django. And I always say the Django, and in my head, I hear him saying, the D is silent. But this is that experience. So what happens in that experience? When it's us against us, and how do you approach that? It's your brother. Do you understand that it's now the enemy is within? How deep, when you watch this, it made me realize how deep the enemy is within. I don't know what y'all saw or how you felt, That's why we developed the platform. But the enemy is within. That's the greater enemy. Now, since 400 years, we've been fighting that external enemy, the system that we can see physically. Now, then we always talk about the mental part of our operant conditioning. And what Bob Marley said, none but ourselves can free our minds. That's something different, because now this situation tells us it don't matter how good you live in. Don't matter what house or what job you have. It don't matter if you live in a nice black community. There's an enemy that you can't see. And that's the enemy that needs to be fought first. That's why I said this is a great opportunity. This is a great experience for us. This is just that moment for us to shift gears and look inward. Because that's something the world don't want. They don't mind us going to school. They don't mind us getting educated. They don't mind us having economic freedom. They don't mind none of that, as long as you don't address the inner enemy. That's what they have a problem with. You going out buying houses and cars and talking about fashion, being culturally conscious. That's nice. Because we have tons of individuals who are culturally conscious, but they still not dealing with the inner enemy. In my community, we call them social nationalists. Yeah, they're social nationalists. That's it. As long as they can get together and express our heritage and our culture, that's fine. But when they do it without a programmatic means to liberation, it's just a group of people gathering, and they're not scared of that. That doesn't deal with this. That doesn't help this. When our faces are attached to the brutality, that means we got work to do inward. That's a whole different concept. When you're dealing with the blaming the system versus looking in the mirror. The system is doing exactly what the system was designed to do, so you can't blame the system. It wasn't built for us. We built the country. They built the system. So it wasn't built for. We deserve every piece of resource that is on this land. We don't want the system. But then we have to look at what the system did to us. That's what they don't want you to see. And what's being measured by now with every non-melanated person watching this, we're going to see if they realize this. We're going to test and measure the depth of their psychological conditioning. Because if they continue to still blame the system and go after the system, they're still blind and will be blind for another 400 years. Y'all, my mother just joined. One of my spiritual mothers. Hey, Evelyn. How you doing?
Hey, I'm fine, sweetheart. I'm so sorry I'm late, but I was determined to make it.
No matter. I appreciate you.
Okay, thank you.
And I can ask you a particular question in regards to this. Is did you? We were talking about uh, 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 the legal aspect of it and what could black youth use as a means of support legally when they go through these problems.
hmm
And
Well,
yeah.
hmm but what I would say first is we have to take the time to really educate our kids. It's sad, it's unfortunate, but the way of the world right now, the way that it is, we have to take the time to sit them down and have that talk. Because Just like the first thing that that young man said, I didn't do nothing. What did I do? I didn't do nothing. And he didn't. But that doesn't matter to somebody that's on a mission. If you got somebody out there, they have a mindset right away that they're going to mess up as many black folks as they come up against, then we have to prepare our young people. So, legally, as I mentioned to you, I want to know that we are putting forth every bit of strategy and everything that we can to help our kids get home safe.
Mm. In that space where you were saying, having that discussion,
Hmm.
did you have to, as being a mother of many,
Yes.
did you have to have that discussion with your kids?
Yes, I did.
Mm.
I told them, I said, first of all, be respectful. Don't talk back. You can ask why did they pull you over if they didn't if they don't tell you right away.
Hmm.
Keep your hands where they can see you. Let them know if you need to go to your glove box to get the registration. It's a shame that we have to do this, but this is the education that we have to give our kids. It doesn't matter if they're male or female because they don't care. They're killing anything that's not like them, and even those that are. And we see that with what just happened. But yeah, we have to have that talk with them to tell them how to conduct themselves. And it's a whole thing. I sent out on the internet something that had been put out, I think, about 6 years ago, but it was about 10 rules about how to get home safe.
Mm.
And it was like a little demonstration, not a demonstration of the act, but just rules to follow to try to make sure that our children get home safe. And unless parents are willing to really buy into that and take it seriously, we're going to keep getting what we're getting.
And sometimes with the parents who aren't, it's like they're forgetting or gotten comfortable living
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in the society that is set up against us. So you're not
Mm-hmm.
having those conversations with your sons. You're not having those conversations with your daughters. It's like, hey, oh, go have a good time in a world that you know. Wait a minute, the plantation. We still on the plantation. It just looks a little
That's
different.
right. That's right.
And
That's right.
I believe that's a part of the conditioning when it and I well we it is a brother in my community. His name is Jemoja Baby Ajiman. Jemoja Baby Ajiman, before he passed, he said I feel sorry for y'all, and I'm like, why, brother? And he is the one that helped create the African that I am, right? All
Mm-hmm.
his concepts and his teachings and his true religion. And I said, why do you feel sorry? What's going on? And he said, I didn't realize that the slave culture, as he calls it, is getting so attractive. He said,
Mm-hmm.
by the time you blink,
Mm-hmm.
black folks will no longer realize that they're oppressed, and they will
That's it.
go about their every day as though that they're not oppressed. So it'll be
Mm-hmm.
harder and harder as the years go on to get black people to come together as a whole, to be
Mm-hmm.
proactive
Mm-hmm.
versus reactive.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so that's another thing, like you said, giving them 10. How do you deal with the parents in those situations?
Well, first of all, in my opinion, the parents have to care enough.
Mm.
You got to stop trying to just be their friend.
Well,
We got to take it all the way back.
well.
I'll be 70 years old this year.
No, you not.
I know.
Stop.
Yes, I am too. Old man, yeah, baby, 70, and I thank God for it. But I'm telling you, if it hadn't been for the chastisement and everything that I got from my dad and my mom
Mm,
growing up, I can tell you a couple of different ways that I would have gone,
mm,
and I know it. But a lot of times, parents have to do introspection. They have to look at their lives and look at what they're pouring into their children. What type of example are they living in front of them? What are you allowing your
mm.
child to do? What are you allowing? Because anybody that comes in my house and they put two shoes underneath a bed and they're sleeping in a bed in my house and don't want to do what I tell them to do, they need to find someplace else to go.
That's
I'm
mm,
sorry. That's
mm.
it. It's my rules. I pay the rules.
My
Yeah,
way or the
I
highway.
pay the cost to be the boss. That's right. Don't come in my house slamming doors.
Right.
You didn't buy that door,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And so I'm just saying, we have to change the way that we are in order to get the change that we want from them.
Mm.
And so setting down some rules, especially, you know, we have had more accidents here in Indiana from with kids that are like 16
Mm-hmm.
and 17. They want to drive like they've been driving for years. They want to show out and all this other stuff.
Mm.
You know, they can't do it because the brain and mind is still growing.
Developing and growing.
It's
Yeah.
still
You.
developing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we have to even
Especially at
think like
16.
that. We have to think like that. So, as far as their safety is concerned, it's very important that we make that a priority and say, look, this is what I'm going to do. Now, I'm a member or I'm a representative of Legal Shield.
Mm-hmm.
And if you give me a moment, I'd like to share that little bit with you, if you
Sure.
don't mind. Okay. What I do, I am admonishing parents to become members of Legal Shield, mainly because there's an app that you can have on your phone and on your child's phone. You educate your child and say, listen, if you are pulled over, all you have to do, make sure your door is locked, have your window rolled up, you tap this app, and you will be connected immediately, no matter what time it is, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You'll be connected to an attorney. Your child will not have to talk to that officer. You give that phone to that officer, and he will talk to the attorney. The legal shield will a representative of the attorney will also call you, let you know where your child is, where the exact location.
I
If
didn't know
they're
that.
arrested, yeah, yeah, they'll let them. They will inform the parent, and depending on what the infraction is, at least you will have that phone open the entire time.
Mm.
And so that's one little area of safety that we can at least give to our kids.
Mm.
Because I have my son and I have two grandsons. One's 17 and one is 19. And both of them have legal shield. And they've both been educated on how to act in case they see those flashing lights or somebody, messing around, especially a police or something. Get on that phone, just press a button.
Mm.
That's all they have to do. And don't have to say nothing to the police. That
Mm.
attorney will take care of it. So, but I'm so glad to be on this because we need to have more of these sessions.
Yeah. My
Yes, these conversations.
One of the things that I did say in this space, and what was going to do was every time I do the African Speaks, there will always be an invite for the community to join for voices because I put it out in the public. I said I don't know who's going to join. I don't know who's going to jump in. I don't know who's going to be open enough to share a word. I'm
Hmm.
just gonna. I was just told to create the platform, open the
Hmm.
platform, and let it be what it is. And if no one
Hmm.
shows, have the conversation like I normally have the conversation and do.
Hmm.
But if everyone shows, now
Hmm.
I want my sister if she decides to. I'm calling you out, girl. You got a voice? Can you speak? She's still on. Oh, you have to unmute yourself. There she
Peace,
go.
greetings,
Peace. How you doing? And I
greetings. Yeah.
greetings. I know that you are part of multiple different organizations. I know that you give areas of your life complete commitment to awareness of self awareness, spiritual awareness. Um, in terms of even the program you was with Chief, where you're drumming and the vibrations, you're changing the vibrations around the globe, and I know sometimes with certain situations you like, oh, what can I do? But I know that you one individual that does everything that they possibly can to offset this psychological situation that we sitting in, where we're dealing with the inner enemy. Can you talk to that?
Yeah, and thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I do. Since I mean, you and I met in an environment, you spoke of the brilliant um, man, Jerimosia Bebe Ajman, whose book I still have right there on my shelf, and all of these other organizations that I found myself involved with since then. I mentioned that we have the blueprint for survival. We
Say that.
have the blueprint to thrive. We have the blueprint to free ourselves from dependency on this corrupt nation that we find ourselves under, right? But the longer we stay in it, what happens is what we see has happened with these brothers
Mm,
is, first of all, they join the gang, okay? You can be a good guy, but once you join the gang,
mm,
then certain requirements are on you.
mm.
You have to accept the mindset of the gang that you've joined. You have to prove yourself worthy of the protections of the gang or you're out, right? So these brothers fell victim to the system
Mm.
and forgot their lane.
Woo.
They forgot that all those privileges do not apply to them. Just as when black police officers first went on the force and thought they could arrest white folk, and it was made very clear
That's
that
not
that
why
is
you here.
not,
Right.
that ain't, mm, you deal with your own. I guess they're dealing with their own.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised also if there's some history. Um, I know, and I haven't seen the video. I don't even really know any of the details because I removed myself from being traumatized by repeatedly watching public lynching. I do not
Right.
want to get anesthetized. You see, I don't want to get comfortable with
Right.
seeing a black man murdered
Come on.
so that it becomes not a big deal anymore.
Right.
If you keep seeing it over and over and over, it's how a lot of things have seeped into our psyche that we are allowing now because we have been anesthetized to the horrors, to just how horrific some of the things can be that are now acceptable in our culture.
Mm.
So I think where we really failed, there's scripture, and I'm not a big like
I know. Go ahead.
Bible scholar and scripture kind of girl, but I do think there
Paraphrase.
is a yeah, I do think there is a scripture that talks about having forsaken the gods of your forefathers.
Wow. Mm.
And I don't know what popular interpretation of that is, but for me, if I have forsaken the gods of my forefathers and foremothers, then that means that I should be worshiping the way they did.
Mm.
I should practice what they practice.
Mm.
I should call on the spirits in my bloodline
Mm.
that have walked in my bloodline since the beginning of my bloodline.
Come on.
I should be calling on the help and the assistance of those I know existed because I exist.
Mm.
I know my parents and my grandparents and my great grandparents and all of them existed
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lineage, and that's a spiritual lineage. And when we turn away from that and we worship gods that we don't even know ever existed,
Mm.
and we take on the ways of a foreign nation, I believe we are in violation.
Mm. Come on.
And so we can only expect more doom and gloom. The sister that was just on, that was so beautiful. I'm so glad you said that about people that live in your house and how they're going to have to do what you say. Because we have moved so far away from the foundations of who we are, which is in our foreparents.
Right.
Okay, I was having a conversation with someone who is a grandmother, and I was saying to her about, these kids are just not they don't have the values anymore that we had. And she says to me, well, everything changes. And so you just have to accept that things change and everything. And I said, well, I'm good with change. Things do change, but everything doesn't necessarily change for the better.
Morals, right,
And yes, there are some things we have to hold on to, right, that define us.
right.
And those are those rudimentary morals, discipline, those kind of
All
rules.
those things that keep us, gives us our identity as a people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and keep us spiritually grounded. They
grounded.
keep us accountable. If I keep my parents in mind, do you remember? I know you remember that. And maybe some other people, y'all ain't my age, but do you remember when your mama used to tell you, don't you go out there making us your family name look bad? When you
Mm,
go in the street, you representing your family.
family. Wow,
That's what I was told.
wow,
You can't go out there shaming my family.
wow.
We don't have that value
Come on.
anymore.
That's big. I could when I remember as growing up, anytime me and my brothers would go somewhere and we would walk into a building, of course, you know how the brother dressed. The brother always get down, and I got that from when brother says she get it from her mama. I can say I get that from my mama. My mama made sure that when you see my sons, you see me. So it wasn't like we didn't get a chance to dress like everybody else. So we would go places and people, the grown people would look, say, who them? And they would say, them Mildred boys. And from that point on, it was clear that they expected something of us. When we went to visit my grandmother, they would say, them Hortense kids. And they
Hmm.
expected something of us. That's what
Yes.
we're looking for. Where when you
When
sit
you
down
sit down
and
and
say,
say,
who are
who
they?
are they?
A
A
bloodline.
bloodline.
Who do they
Who do they
represent?
represent?
That's important, and that's completely clear. Who do they represent? They represent somebody's family. This family represents this, that, and the other. It is a part of who we are.
Yeah.
Definitely a part of who we are. Mrs. Nicole Lindsay, I see you back there. Sister, when you talk, because you have a great name, and I remember you telling me about this book that you're reading about your family. Is that Lindsay name, if you're willing to talk, if is that Lindsay name a part of what you teach your children in terms of what she was saying, that culture?
Hello, good evening. Thank you for calling me out. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We can hear you.
um, um, actually, the book that you're referring to, my aunt actually wrote it, and she did a lot of research. It goes back three generations on my father's side, and it shows how they've progressed from slavery in Jamaica to going to Panama to coming back to Jamaica. And it's a great foundation to pass on to my kids to let them know that they came from greatness and they came from adversity, and that regardless of the situation that you are going through, you are able to persevere and push out and make yourself known and accountable for your actions. So I think it's also important for families to, if they can and where they can, to teach their kids about their history, not just your grandparents' history. If you have the ability and the knowledge to go back a little bit further and really show them that you came from a strong people, I think that sense of pride will also propel some of these children to do a lot better in what they're doing.
I was on, and that's clear. And in this space of watching us hurt us, there was a big disconnection of family. And sometimes family is not always blood. Sometimes family is those who just look like you. And so having that as being that important, excuse me for those who are online, I didn't switch the screen. Having those to be that important is deep. And so are you sharing that book with your children? Are you did you share it with them? Are they reading it as well?
They're not reading it right now, just for time's sake. But I have shared various um captions and sections of it, just because there's some stuff that I didn't even know. And I'm 50 years old, and there's some stuff that I didn't even know about my family. So it's also a learning experience for myself. So once I learn something new, I do share it with them, and I do casually leave the book hanging around the house so they can see it and hopefully pick it up and experience it for themselves.
which is a beautiful thing. We are talking about the police brutality and the tragedy of Tyre Nichols, and say his name as much as possible. Get him a transition over to the ancestral realm. Call his ancestors, come get him, and have him release his spirit into the universe where he is getting justice, not just from an oppressive society, but from his people as a whole. He deserves to see us be a people. He deserves to see us be a group. He deserves all of that. And we're hoping that he receives that. We're hoping that he receives that. Now I don't know Miss Juanita. I see the name. I'm not quite sure who the person is. Is there a view that you have that you wanted to share? You would have to unmute yourself. She was actually the first person on the call. She was there she unmuted. We can't hear you. See if you have a mute button on your headset if you have a headset, because you're unmuted, but for some reason the sound is not going through. Now there's someone else on the call, Sandra. Do you have a point of view? She's coming in. I didn't even know she was gonna come in.
Hello, everyone. Everybody actually already said almost everything, but from being a mother of a son and a daughter, one of the things that I practice is teaching them that they are black excellence. And I think oftentimes in our community we forget who we are. And because we've forgotten who we are, we hate the very essence of who we are. And so we become so accustomed to hurting not only self, but anybody that looks like us. And so if we're able to love thyself first, then we're able to teach that to others. And so that's one of the things that I really work hard to do in my own family, in my own community, is to really heal the trauma, to really understand who we are first in God and then in ourselves. And so that for me, I think would really help our community as a whole. Like you can look outside and we hate the very essence of each other. We find something wrong with each other. We're like, okay, who she thinks she is or who he think he is. Versus us loving and speaking life, we're actually speaking death. And so I hope that everybody listening to this conversation will start looking within. Start looking within, figuring out where the trauma is, because we know it's been passed down. But we have a choice. We always have a choice. So either we're going to choose to stand in an oppressive state, or we're going to set ourselves free within, or we can set others who's connected to us also free. So for me, that's the biggest thing, is really, really healing self so we can heal our community as one.
Now I don't. I'm sorry to put you on blast, but I'm gonna put you on blast because I know what you do in your business. You actually have a process of, and again, because in this space when people are dealing with, and I spoke to another friend of mine that called me today, and in her mind she was like, I can't believe people are not talking about this is us versus us. So when you say self healing, there is a process that you use. I always crack jokes on you, but there's a process that you use for black women to heal from within. Would you want to talk about that?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit.
A little bit. I am a womb sauna practitioner, and so my focus is to help all women to heal within, heal their womb, heal their trauma. I have all clients from all walks of life who have some form of trauma. But what I've seen is that they have been their worst enemy. And so I like to be able to tap into that and pull out the roots of what's really happening. And so the method that I use is vaginal steaming. We tackle mind, body, womb, spirit. And I like for all women to understand and all men to understand that you are your first healer. You have the power to heal yourself. And so that is the tools that I give to every client that I see, is that you are here to save you. And as you save you, you're going to save everything connected to you. So that's a little bit about what I do. I can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I was on mute. I'm sorry. I was writing my notes down. The Queen said, "You are your first healer."
Yes.
Woo!
Like
You
that.
are your man. Mama, did you hear that?
I heard it.
Did you hear? And so that kind of hit me a little bit different because of all of the illnesses I'm going through. But and you hear so many things that if you can't, I know when my mother was going through her issues, I would always have a. I said, "Mommy, I need you to lay hands on yourself." I said, "I can help you with your food, your exercise. I can help you with everything, but I need you to help you with you." But it never gave me the understanding that you are healer number one.
Right.
And if you don't activate that particular awareness, self-awareness, so you can have psychologists after psychologists after even with psychologists, they just try to lead your thinking. But the first level of thinking, I need to let you know that you're the first healer. You are your first healer. You didn't come in with scars, but this operant conditioning, this systematic oppression has developed scars, and you have to know that you have the ability to heal you.
Yes,
That's powerful.
it is.
That's power. I mean, I have a because I kind of figure I got a point of view on how to go about dealing with this. My face is using the system to destroy us. But with the level of self-awareness that you get to say that you are your first healer, and everybody has that ability.
Everybody.
Everybody has that. That's a part of knowing who you are and whose you are.
Exactly.
If you understand, I'm gonna, man, yeah.
I wanted to say one thing, please.
hmm
I am so inspired by these women that have spoken up, and even those that are listening, if there's others, I am just so glad I tapped in. Um, and I want information about each one, if you will, because let's end of September, first part of October, I'm planning a conference. And
Mm.
I would love, 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 love to have you come and participate. Um, Speak to women. It is for women, and I'd love to get your information. And I'll send you mine as well. So you did a wonderful thing today, son.
I appreciate it, Mama. Now look, y'all could do that. All could do that in the chat below, Mama. If you can, you click chat and put your
Yeah.
information in chat, and then everybody can go and that's why again, where the ancestors told me to merge Zoom
Mm-hmm.
and my stream. And so
Yeah.
if I can utilize the tools in both areas. So y'all hit it up so that and I'm glad that we ain't got to do it where everybody else could see it. But y'all, Mama, you put your information in the chat. Those who are in the chat can actually see the information in the chat. And when I tell you, wow, this woman, when we came across each other by accident and also on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Very powerful, very influential sister. She's one of those earth shakers. She's one of those movers. She's an individual. If you go and say, "I need you to," what's it? "I need you to get 100 black women," and
Mm-hmm.
he went and got this brother got a bunch of sisters. Said, I need y'all to get 100 black women. This woman got 100 by herself. She a bad sister, and
Amazing.
that's it. So y'all make sure that y'all do this and see this. Go inside the chat, grab the information, and connect. But this is what this is about. I was told by my community. They said,
Mm-hmm.
brother, you have when I first started the African Speaks, it was a lot of testosterone, a lot of male energy. It's a lot of male guests. And sisters were like, you need to. One sister from my community, and I was hoping that she would log in, and she didn't log in today, but I'm going to get them one of these days. You need to make sure you have some strong women talking on your show. You make sure you have some sister energy. I said, I'm not scared of no sisters. I could be the only brother and still hold my own. My chromosome is capitalized. My Y chromosome. But we definitely, and I know I had y'all here for about an hour, and we definitely uh, needed you, needed all the voices, and I appreciate y'all. We still have individuals watching via the live stream, and so yeah, grab that information. I see that information popping up. Grab that information online via the chat, and I'm gonna continue doing this. You know,
Please.
I don't
And
know, and again, I don't know what you as a team or group of individuals will ever create. So the ancestors said you have the technology and the know-how to get this started. So get this started. Miss Juanita, did you figure out your sound? Yay, no. Did you try to unmute yourself again and see if it'll work? One of the things that I'm going to add as a solution to who we are and what we've been going through is definitely we cannot not focus on self-determination.
Mm-hmm.
that's right.
If you want to, you can't undo the system, and this is that marching, and we can prolong the system, we can hold back the system, but for
Mm-hmm.
us, what we need to do is definitely create our own system.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yep.
have to create our own black everything.
That's right.
And that's
That's
that's that's deeply, there is no other answer but self-determination.
hmm
There is no other what we gonna do. There's no way to sit down and get to that point. Wait, I'm editing something so people, when I switch back over, people won't see the information going across. There we go. So I had to take off I had to make sure I took off the chat on the side, so now y'all can chat on the side and the public won't see it.
okay. Thank
Y'all can share each other's names and interaction.
you.
All right, I see Miss Juanita. She said no, don't worry. Sorry, it's okay. So next time, Miss Juanita, we're gonna figure this out and get your voice in here. Um, but it is definitely self determination. It's self awareness. We got to know who we are in God and whose we are in God. We have to embrace our culture, embrace the old traditions, and we got to go through rites of passages, so we know that we are becoming. And I don't know what you're gonna become, but becoming not what the system made you, but what God called you to be.
That's right.
And in this space where we're dealing with the issues of trauma and scars, we're gonna take the sister's words and know that you got to be understand that you got to teach this to yourself and to your children, that you are your first healer.
hmm
You are your first healer. And then from Sister Nicole, you got to go through your heritage and learn your story. I know for me, every Wednesday, anybody that knows me knows that every Wednesday night I'm in a meeting with my family. And we're trying to get to know each other. We actually, after all these years, are trying to have a family reunion. Ain't that something? And nobody wants to talk to nobody because we mad at each other like we ain't never been mad. Oh no, Jew. And we doing the best we can. Doing the best, but it's needed for the healing process.
hmm
It's needed for self discovery. When I said that my eye is plural, anytime you look into someone's eyes that is melanated, you have to see yourself.
That's right.
You have to see yourself. And so when I saw this and I was like paused and I looked at the pictures and I looked at the eyes of the individuals, when they look back at themselves, they don't see themselves. They see, as the sister put it, the gang that they decided to sign up with.
Mm-hmm.
And that they need to be accepted by their gang.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them got out on bail. Ain't that something? So despite whether or not they're going to, we don't know what's going to happen out there. I can't sit down and say, okay, yeah, they're going to, there's going to be justice, there's going to be injustice. I don't know what needs to happen in this. If this doesn't call us to deal with the inner enemy,
Mm.
there's a problem.
That's
And
right.
that's what this situation does. It calls us to deal with the inner enemy. That spiritual, you got to have knowledge of self.
That's right.
Because once you have that, everybody you look at will sit down. And then, because in that understanding as black folk, because I'm not anti-Caucasian. I'm anti-Caucasian system. I'm against the system that they created. Because once we, and this, the fear is once we find out who we are, because the most powerful man on the planet is the most programmatic man. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna say right now, it's the brother out of Rwanda, the president of Rwanda right now, who's building the East African conference, community, where they took 8 East African countries and made one nation, which makes them the 4th largest nation in the world.
Mm.
They are planning how to strategize, how to bring black folks home.
Yes. Yes.
That's the answer to police brutality when it looks like us.
Mm-hmm.
It's building for yourself. Ghana has a thing where they're talking about dual citizenship, where you can get dual citizenship and you can come and go and you can have businesses, land, all of it. Some of us may not go overseas, but if we make a decision to stay here, we need to be unified if we stay.
Right.
Rather than accepting something, in Jemoja baby, I just said it's a nation within a nation.
Mm-hmm.
The Jews do it. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
Greeks do it. They got Greek school. I remember growing up, the Greek kids had to go to school before they came to our school. It was no such thing as black people school, and it should be.
Mm-hmm.
It
Really
should.
should.
Now we doing homeschool,
Mm-hmm.
and then that needs to increase too. The network of homeschools.
Yes. Yes.
We need to be able to define ourselves completely.
Mm-hmm.
When that happens, these things and these issues subside. I like to say before we end, because y'all girls, ladies, I can talk all night.
Oh.
I could go all night. I come up with another topic that connects to this topic and we'll keep going. I'll save that for another moment. I like to thank everybody that came. I like to thank that everybody that spoke. Truly appreciate the voices. Again, this is the beginning of something that I will never stop. When the ancestors called me, I started DaAfrican Speaks. A lot of people in my community was like, it's just for him. No, I invited them all every step of the way, whether they come or whether they don't. I still got to do what the creator has called me to do.
Yes.
And so I challenge everybody to take time to hear. We go to God asking, 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 but we never take time to slow down and listen, 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 listen. Hear what you're called to do, because your assignments are coming to you. The
Yes.
quicker you say yes, the better your life becomes. The better our community becomes, your family comes. It all happens that way. So with that, ladies, I'm gonna drop my intro, and I'm gonna thank you for coming, and I truly appreciate y'all. This is always about the rise of the African. I have that. And at this moment, I can say whoever was listening, the African in them got even more within themselves. You are your first healer. Go find your lineage, connect to your morals and values, and those 10 steps. I might have to get them 10 steps from you so that we can post that completely.
Okay.
And one love. I'll see y'all later.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Oh, that's so good.